song. I've been thinking maybe we should take on a singer.
More than you know.
They wanted a new voice.
Man of my heart.
But what they got
I love you.
Leave her alone. I mean it.
would tear these brothers apart.
If I had you pegged for a loser, you're worse. You're a coward.
We're always small time. We were never clowns.
The Fabulous Baker Boys. Viewer discretion advised. Saturday at 8, 7 Central on My Network TV.
Welcome back to Dave's Movie Diary. Today I'm talking about The Fabulous Baker Boys, a film that came out in 1989. Wow, talking about this one, I feel like I should be sitting at a bar with a drink in my hand late night with some jazz or piano, probably more appropriately playing in the background. That's the mood that this film really brings. Really quiet, smoky, slightly melancholy, something you've stumbled into late at night that's already halfway through. So it's an interesting one to talk about. It's a long forgotten film, I feel like. That was a reasonably big deal at the time. So I've got good memories of this film, and they were reinforced on the rewatch recently. Let's get into it. Quick plot summary. It's a film about two brothers, Frank and Jack Baker, played by two real-life brothers, Bo and Jeff Bridges. They're a piano duo. They've spent years together working the lounge circuit across the US, but principally around New York. Hotels, bars, function rooms, that's their niche. Now, Frank is Bo Bridges. He's the older brother, keeps it together. Structure, discipline, does all the bookings, does the accounts, tries to inject positivity into it. Whereas Jack, played by Jeff Bridges, he's the talented one. But like most talented creative folks, he's restless. He's drifting between the gigs. He's after something where he can express himself more. And he's finding that on his own in small jazz clubs where he can actually play the way he wants to, experiment more with other like-minded musicians. They realise their act's starting to stagnate because they're not getting the bookings. They're getting... in one scene, they're actually paid not to come back for the second night. So it's time to revamp. What do? They decide to hire a singer to refresh things. They audition close to 40 female singers. They're done for the day. They're not very happy. In stumbles Susie Diamond, played by Michelle Pfeiffer. And she's late. They're dejected. They give her a turn anyway, and she comes out with this sharp, smoky voice. And they both sit up and pay attention. Obviously, this is the Michelle Pfeiffer part. So she looks incredible. Even though she's dressed in a pretty punky way. She's got the let me start again. She's not the usual Michelle Pfeiffer energy in this film. She's struggled. She's a former escort. She's completely outside their staid kind of world. And they take a chance. There's some rocky moments early on, but the act clicks in and it starts to work. The whole vibe and the dynamic's different. But of course, you're injecting Michelle Pfeiffer into this mix. And obviously, she gravitates towards Jack. They become involved. Frank's pushed to the margins. Everything's out of balance. So what started out as a professional revival quickly turns into an emotional breakdown inside their working partnership with some interesting results. All right, what's my relationship with the film? I first saw it when it came out around 1990 on video. It was pretty heavily marketed at the time, I remember that, and Michelle Pfeiffer was really coming into her own by the late 80s. She'd had a run including Witches of Eastwick, Married to the Mob, Dangerous Liaisons, Tequila Sunrise, and there was a sense of anticipation with the film. So it was one of those movies that a lot of people were watching and talking about. It really felt like Michelle Pfeiffer's film at the time. and because of the way that it was marketed, I think, obviously taking advantage of that. She's got the red dress on. There's the scene on the piano where she's sprawled across it in a really, really sexy song, and really good performance. And that's what stayed with me for years. And rewatching it now, the balance has really shifted. I can see that through my lens now. It's Jeff Bridges' film. It's watching his journey. It's watching his struggles. And it's all in relation to him, the film, his relationship with his brother, his relationship with Susie Diamond. And that change, that reorientation for me is really what a lot of these pods are about. It's me re-examining what I first thought about a film and comparing it to what I think now, often 20, 30, sometimes 40 or more years after the fact. So I'm really always interested in that perspective. Who made it? It's directed by a guy called Steve Kloves. Interestingly enough, it's his only directing credit before he got really into screenwriting. And get this, he wrote the Harry Potter series, the scripts, the screenplays. So really interesting. He did quite well with this film. He doesn't impose himself. He lets the story and the performances and the music speak for itself, which was smart. It's really restrained, character-driven filmmaking. And if you told me that the guy who directed this went on to be heavily involved in driving the Harry Potter series, I would have thought you'd made a mistake. So that's really weird. So there's no big set pieces. There's probably one or two. The set piece that I referred to earlier with Michelle Pfeiffer sprawled out on the piano, that is really the centerpiece of the film. For me, but the rest of it is just people in rooms, a lot of silences between their dialogue, relationships. You can watch them slowly drifting in and out of alignment. In some ways, I think you could say it's a writer's film more than a director's film in the traditional sense. Everything about this is about behavior, timing, and emotional distance, especially for Jeff Bridges' character, who, as I said, for me is the central character. So Jeff Bridges as Jack Baker, late 80s, he'd had a really strong 80s, Jagged Edge. He'd been in Starman. He'd been in Against All Odds, sorry. Tucker the Man in His Dream. He'd had a really strong 70s as well. But he was in a zone too, but I feel like Michelle Pfeiffer really scooped up all the energy at the time. And when I think about it now, Jeff Bridges really went on and is still having an incredible career. He's one of my favorite actors to watch, if that makes sense. He's always so relaxed and chilled. He's one of the cool dudes. And it's no surprise that The Big Lebowski became such a big hit on the back of his character, the dude. Because in some ways, I feel like he's just playing himself. He's so cool. He looks great always. That's a given. But he reminds me a bit of Paul Newman. He's so cool that he knows it and he doesn't have to impose himself. And that's the way he plays this character. So he's the musician with the real ability but no anchor. And it's a perfect role for Jeff Bridges. He plays him with understatement. Nothing too flashy. It really looks like he's playing the piano, so well done in those scenes. But it's the jazz club scenes where he's going off secretly. No one knows he's there for the most part. That's when he really comes alive, shows a lot more expression playing the piano outside the act of the Baker brothers. And that contrast is really interesting to watch. And those scenes in the smoky jazz clubs are really terrific. Michelle Pfeiffer as Susie Diamond. I already said that she was coming out of a massive late 80s. She was turning heads in every way. She went on to continue that, especially with the Batman Returns film as Catwoman. Again, for me, I always saw her as having that real Ice Queen dynamic where she's so great looking and so stylish, and she seems unattainable to me anyway. that's the way her persona was. I think of her role in Scarface as well at the start of the 80s. And I think she tried to lose that tag, or maybe show a lot more emotion and attainability in some of the films that she did, Married to the Mob in particular. And then going on into the 90s, she was still strong in films like Dangerous Minds, of course, but I think she's sort of been lost to time a little bit. She doesn't get spoken about like Julia Roberts does, or other actresses of that time. But for me, I really enjoyed her performance here because she's really grounded at the start, and she comes in out of control, late, totally playing against type. Yes, she's got glamour when she needs it, especially in that New Year's Eve making whoopee sequence that I've spoken about with the red dress. But it's not empty glamour. She's really trying to survive in this film and performing. She's putting herself out there by singing these songs. So great performance, one of the best now that I reflect on it. Beau Bridges is Frank Baker. I think he's really now known as the other Bridges brother. And he's the other Baker brother in this too. So he's a steady wingman. He stays in his lane. He knows what his limits are. He doesn't have the looks or the range of his brother in the movie and compared to Jeff. So yeah, he's the organizer and the stabilizer. He's trapped in the role. He's trying to support his family. He's trying to do the right thing by them. He's got a strict moral code, and just as well because his brother certainly doesn't. And once Susie comes into the frame, you realise how fragile the structure really is, and how bad the Baker brothers' relationship is. So she really sets it off. When things go off kilter, he doesn't explode until there's a pivotal scene between Beau and Jeff Bridges up against a chain link fence late at night. Everything comes out then. So it's a really internal, quiet performance that holds everything together. What really worked for me, obviously the atmosphere. I said it from the top. It imparts that feel of smoky lounges and late night gigs and smoking a lot of cigarettes and struggling in a tough industry. It feels lived in, and the film definitely succeeds in that part. And the music has to be done well because it's a film about musicians, right? It doesn't feel staged. It looks and feels like they're actually playing the way that they get into it. I've seen so many films over the years where it's obvious that that's the first time they've picked up the instrument. It's like they didn't rehearse for the role. Not this time. They both jumped in feet first. And what else works? I think the central triangle, the relationship works here because it's understated. It's definitely not a melodramatic film. The tension builds nice and slowly. It doesn't have that movie of the week feel, which it could have. Nothing's pushed too far and everything drifts along. Very realistic, I felt like, and but enjoyable and entertaining at the same time. What doesn't work? If I'm being critical, I could probably say that the narrative is quite predictable. It's obvious what's going to happen between Jeff Bridges and Michelle Pfeiffer. It's probably pretty obvious how that's going to play out. You can see the emotional beats coming. You'd have to be blind not to see that. But I don't think that's what the film's about anyway. It's not trying to surprise you with the plot. The plot is not central. It's about the tone. It's about the performances. It's about getting the atmosphere across, and it succeeds in all those aspects. So maybe even what feels familiar could be argued to be part of the design of this film. So it's not a film that's going to knock your socks off. It's one of those films where I watched it and felt, yeah, that's the way it would happen. Yeah, that makes sense, and that's done really well. I really appreciated the film. It's not a film that you're going to be thinking about for days and days, I think. So it's really a good rewatch film if you've seen it a long time ago. You'll definitely see it through a different lens, I think. Like I saw Pfeiffer the first time. Why wouldn't I? I was 16 or 17 years old. Of course I'm going to notice her. I mean, she's fantastic. She's a great performance, and she's a striking lady. So, of course. now I really see the Bridges performance and the character, that he's central. So that shift says a lot more about me, how I've obviously changed in predictable ways in the last 35 years, because the film doesn't change. So I noticed the silences more than some of the moments in this, the tension, the frustrations, the distance, maybe more than the dramatic events, which I really would have held on to the first time round. So look, it isn't about big narrative turns. It's about routine and talent and the emotional imbalance that exists inside any working relationship. It's quiet. It's controlled. It's pretty sad in moments. Not crying out loud sad, but it's got melancholy in there, and I felt for the characters, so it succeeds on that emotional level. And it does stay with you in those terms, but it's probably a film, once you've seen it, you'll think about it from time to time, but it won't be always there in the back of your mind like a lot of the big films that we think about. So yeah, it's a success. If you haven't seen it before, check it out. Knowing the plot shouldn't inhibit that. Just enjoy the performances and enjoy that atmosphere. That's what films are all about, right? Thanks for listening again, and see you next time.